Hello, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Now, for today on Fixing D20 Modern with the DM guide, I'm not talking about another advanced class like I thought I was going to be because I realized a couple of things. One, in my zeal to get going and start tearing through as much content as I could and fixing different things that I found that were busted and could be so much more fun, I'd forgotten to cover a couple of things that have to do with character creation. And then also, once I gave myself a little bit of a break, I still forgot about it. And two, well, two, I don't remember what two was, but that's neither here nor there. We are here to talk today about allegiances and starting occupations. These are two things that they did with D20 Modern that I think actually worked really well. I think these were wonderful ideas. So, we're going to go ahead and just dive right on into these and kind of start sifting through and see what exactly these things do. So, to start us off, for allegiances, this was an optional rule that was put in. It essentially took the place of alignments, but it included them. It allowed for more than just good or evil, law or chaos or order or any of those things. You can have allegiances to a faction, multiple factions, people, or ideals. Now, normally you're allowed up to three allegiances, and you place them on your character sheet in the order of importance. So, if being good and righteous is the most important thing, then that gets listed number one. And then, say you're a police officer, that's number two. And then, if you have a third allegiance to a mentor um, or even just some historical figure, even somebody that you look up to historically and want to live up to, like, say, well, let's go along with the good and policeman route. Let's go with Boss Reeves. Say this person looks up to one of the most legendary lawmen the U.S. has ever seen. Um, then that's the next in order of importance. Not to say that it's not important, just out of those three things, it's the least important because, well, you could make the argument that somebody who looks up to Boss Reeves would want to be good and righteous and follow the law. And then in doing so, they became a police officer, something meaningful to them because it's like living up to their historical hero. And then, of course, the historical hero himself, the one that inspired this person to strive for these two other aspects that define their lives and help to make up who they are. The only change I could really recommend to this is allowing the players to have more. It's like when you come up with traits or have them come up with traits. You know, if you're doing the three negative or three positive traits versus one negative to help round out their personality. Allowing them to have more alignments, you could have or allegiances rather. The character could be chaotic and good, uh, be aligned with the Knights of the Silver Dragon, very much focused on freedom, hence the chaotic good aspect, and be of a very disciplined mindset. These things will help to tell you so much about a character and uh, help you to hook them into the story and the game and get the players that much more engaged, as well as help the players figure out how this person's supposed to act and behave. They'll have plenty of other traits, but these allegiances help to inform the mindset and help dictate where the character is at, and which groups they feel most closely connected to. Uh, and of course, with what they're connected to, that also tells you a lot about what they're in opposition to. And the Knights of the Silver Dragon are a holy order of knights for the Urban Arcana supplement to the D20 Modern rulebook, and so that sets them against a lot of evil creatures and the like. And well, you can get the idea there. And I really like allegiances. I think that allows for a great deal more flexibility and a little bit more. There's just more options and more of what you can do to help get a better definition on what the character is like, honestly, than just what the base nine alignments allow for. The alignments are great. It's a good system, but they're so broad that there's so much wiggle room, and I think allowing yourself to add in a little bit more to that is a good thing. It takes that flexibility and it adds more to it to help better define the character. Also, it just reflects the modern day and age. Not everybody's so concerned about these various aspects of morality. You have company men, you have nationalists, you have, gosh, so many different things. You have atheists, you have people who are purely focused on science and scientific fact, and then you have the hardcore religious fundamentalists. These are, and these different groups argue about these various morals, the positions of what is good, what is moral, what's evil, what's a straddling neutral ground, what is law, what is chaos, things like that. So I think that's actually a very good thing that Wizards of the Coast had done with this setting. Like I said, the only thing I would change and have changed is allowing players to have more than 3 allegiances, because life can be so much more complex than that, and we should allow that to be reflected in the characters to help hook the players into the story better. But then after that, we have starting occupations. Now, starting occupations are basically what your character did with their lives before the game had started and can help to inform more about your backstory. They'll also provide either one or a combination of the benefits down below here, which first is bonus skills, and if the skills that you select are class skills for you already, then you get a +1 miscellaneous modifier. Several of these can also provide a bonus feat, and most of them will provide you some amount of a starting wealth bonus if you're using the wealth bonus system. Uh, as I've noted before, I do not really. Um, I don't like using wealth bonus system. I basically use that starting wealth bonus as kind of a gauge for how much additional funds or resources the characters may be starting off with. And really, when it comes to occupations, there's not much to really change with starting occupations, save for replacing some of the skills like listen, spot, and search, and just melding them all into perception, like I'd recommended earlier a couple episodes back, and adding in appropriate feat options, such as deadly aim where appropriate, just as an example there. Like I said, wealth bonus can be left alone unless you're using especially if you're using the base rules or the optional rules. That's where you can leave it in, and works out just fine. And the other thing with starting occupations is they're just an initial bonus and benefit to your character, and it does help line out backstory, but they don't really add much to your character later on because that's as much a life they're leaving behind as they move up forward and embrace their lives, as characters with class levels. Um, you could do something similar to what they did, like with Starfinder or even 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. This is actually kind of a precursor to that, the starting occupations. This didn't really pop up in 3rd edition or 3.5 D&D or much of it earlier. This is something that cropped up in the Dungeons and Dragons vein, the Wizards of the Coast series of games about this time, and so that's kind of where that comes from, at least from where I'm looking at it, just over my own history of gaming. So you could conceivably add in or say, hey, by the time the character reaches 5th level or 7th level, something like that, they gain this additional bonus, especially if they're still functioning in their job or their old career in some capacity. Like say you start off with the criminal starting occupation. Well, you may still be working for a criminal organization from time to time, or maybe you pick law enforcement, but specifically stipulate that you decided to go private eye rather than be part of a larger governmental system or anything like that. So, being a private eye, you could still be a player character delving into these different supernatural things, or if your game is more Hollywood and less magic, then you're playing John McClane, or your version of John McClane from Die Hard or something like that. You could start adding in benefits that kick in as the character levels up and progresses. But that is a fair amount of work there, and you'd have to do that for every single starting occupation and each supplemental book. D20 Past, Future, Urban Arcana, they all add in starting occupations, so that's quite a bit of work there. And I don't know, that's the kind of thing that I would want to dive into, and I don't anticipate myself doing that much, even with these rule fixes. I think the starting occupations are fine. They could do more, but I think it's fine because, again, it's the idea that this is what your character's old life was, and maybe it's still part of it, but this is just the initial benefit you got from pursuing that career before you became awakened or before you just threw yourself into the deep end of crazy or whatever the situation is that you may be tangling with as the DM throws more and more story at you. I think this works out just fine as is, other than, tweaking and adjusting these various skills or feats, and in my case, just ditching the wealth bonus system overall. Well, that's about the gist of it. These are the two things that I forgot, and as you can tell, this video is relatively short, so uh, very easy to skip over it. Like I said, there's a lot to unpack here with starting occupations, just given that there are so many, but we will leave that for a possible future episode. I don't know if I'll ever get to that. Let me think. The only other thing that I can add on here and it's not related to this, is this coming Friday, which is, let's see, today's the 8th, so Monday's 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, so the 13th? Friday the 13th, auspicious. But Friday around 6:30 Mountain Time, I am going to be starting my first ever live Q&A. So come up with questions, or if you just want to pop in, chat, and say hello, I'll be here for a little while. How long hasn't been determined yet, just kind of depends on how things go with Atticus, with Nora, for my wife and I, and also how many people are joining in and chatting. It could be a fairly short little session. It could be something that goes on an hour or two, depending on what everybody wants to do and how things play out. But with that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore. If you enjoyed today's video, excuse me. If you enjoyed today's video, go on down there, hit the like button, and let me know in the comments down below. Or if you didn't like it, well, still, let me know anyways. Hit the dislike button if you want to yell, scream, detract, throw down all sorts of snide comments, please. Feel free to do so. I'm more than happy to engage. And if you did enjoy today's video, though, there are going to be a couple more popping up over this way that maybe possibly you'll enjoy as well. The YouTube algorithm thinks so. I certainly hope so. And if this hasn't been your first stop overall here, then, well, hell. You must have enjoyed something, so why not consider hitting that subscribe button and becoming a regular member here at the Gamers Den, and click that bell icon so that way you get notified the next time I upload more content here. But once again, I've been your host, Jordan, and thank you all so much for your time. You all have yourselves a good night.